Who do you think that is there?
He was the man who flirted with totalitarian World War II imagery,
Sorry, what you were saying?
declared himself gay, then bi, then a closet heterosexual, and somehow came out more loved each time.
All right, Mum.
A genius, yes, but also a workaholic drug ghost who barely slept, burning through people, scenes, and even his own identities in the name of art. He dipped into Black American music, queer culture, kabuki, and the very darkness of Berlin decadence, left behind a trail of accusations about theft, fetishization, and unpaid bills. So was David Bowie a fearless prophet of fluid identity? Or a beautifully dressed thief who turned other people's lives into his mood board? If you only have 30 seconds, here's the bottom line of this video. David Bowie's secret was that he treated his own self as a living art project. By the early 70s, he had already become a chameleon rock star who, quite literally, reinvented his own self with every album. He waged wars on rules and norms. He shapeshifted without fear. He showed the world that weird was not only okay, it was, in fact, more than beautiful. Essential for beauty, perhaps. That's the short version. But if you want the full story of how he pulled this off, and why it changed everything, keep watching. Welcome. I'm Kira, and this is your beauty blueprint. I have spent a whole week immersing myself in all things Bowie to capture his very essence, and share the best of what I found. Think of me as your guide through that museum of glitter and razor-like eyeliner. Now, what are the ingredients of his oh-so-recognizable persona? David Bowie in the 70s was not just a singer with some crazy outfits. He was a one-man art movement. Imagine bold, kabuki-inspired eye makeup, an electric orange mullet, a scarlet wig, a glittery gold circle on the forehead, and a hand-drawn lightning flash makeup. And that's barely scratching the surface. Well, all I can say is, stick around. By the end of this video, we'll even serve up a quick breakdown of what we can learn, very, very practically speaking, from Bowie himself. So settle in and make yourself comfortable. Maybe even grab a drink or snack worthy of 70s Bowie. Perhaps a tall glass of cold milk with a red pepper on the side. Yes, one of Bowie's actual mid-70s diets was just milk and peppers.
It's a lot of milk. I was doing a lot of milk.
Before we dive in, just a small favor I would like to ask you. If you're enjoying this so far, please click on the like button and please subscribe. It really helps this new channel. And naturally, I would of course love to hear from you. Please drop a comment about which Bowie era or look stuck with you the most. We've also got channel memberships for bonus content, and even a new Ziggy Stardust-inspired t-shirt on the merch shelf. Check those out if you're interested. It would mean the world to me. Alright, thank you. Now let's get back to the glittery past. Time for us to finally see who David Bowie really was back then, and how he became the face of 70s. Let's start with a little backstory. David Robert Jones was born in Brixton, London, on January 8th, 1947. So he was a Capricorn, with Leo as moon sign and Aquarius rising.
Do you believe in God?
I believe in an energy form, but I'm not. I wouldn't like to put a name to it.
Son of a British Army veteran, young David grew up in working-class South London on a steady diet of jazz, R&B, and French cabaret records. Not a glamorous start exactly, yet even as a kid he was already just drawn to the performance. He studied art and mime in high school and made puppets and comics with his older half-brother. A childlike imagination, stirred, at first, by his family's struggles. In fact, he later wrote, "To be children of a broken home is bad news." Those were the shadows behind his makeshift sparkle. At 17, he co-founded a tongue-in-cheek Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Long-Haired Men to protest people hassling him about his shaggy hair. That cheeky rebellion foreshadowed everything to come. He quickly renamed himself Bowie to avoid confusion with another David Jones. He took Bowie from the Bowie knife, the large, double-edged fighting knife associated with the 19th century American frontiersman James Bowie of Alamo fame, and also the idea it cuts both ways.
That was me talking backwards. Wasn't that a good one?
Through the late 60s, young Bowie toiled in obscurity, dabbled in folk music, art, and even mime. He thought nothing of trying out dozens of styles. A few first singles flopped, but he kept writing songs and learning all he could. But by 1969, he did catch the lightning. Space Oddity, timed to the Apollo moon landing, suddenly rocketed to the charts and announced 22-year-old Bowie as one of rock's next big stars. Now the world was paying attention. Bowie began writing songs as if an alien anthropologist were conquering London, detached, dreamy, desperate at times, and it all just really worked now. Crowds collectively leaned in. By 1971, Bowie had honed his talent and released Hunky Dory, an album full of hits like Changes and Life on Mars that essentially proclaimed his chameleon nature.
I suppose they've got a different impression of me now. Little do they know.
That same era, he married model Angie Barnett, and with her and their pretty kid at home, he became a tabloid fixture. The couple proudly defied convention. Bowie and Angie were one of rock's first openly bisexual, non-monogamous power couples. Angie even egged him on in his wild ideas, encouraged him to take that bisexual glitter persona on the road and into the spotlight. Yet in 1972, he openly zigzagged on sexuality, shocked fans by declaring himself gay, then bisexual, then, as a cherry on top, joked he was a closet heterosexual. Rather witty, if you ask me. Britannia even notes he was the first rock star to turn a confession of bisexuality into a shrewd career move. All this fearless candor only added to the legend, of course. Then, in 1972, came the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, a glam rock sci-fi rock opera that made Bowie a definite superstar.
Who are you?
Life is too short for questions.
Well, what are you?
Ziggy wasn't just an album, it was a persona, a real living, breathing bisexual alien messenger. And the world fell for it, overnight. Fans hung on his every lyric and gesture, while the press hung on his every scandalous statement. Ziggy Stardust was like nothing the public had seen. Bowie walked on stage in a skin-tight, glittering jumpsuit, his hair a flaming orange mullet, his face painted white with bright eyes. He even used a gold prosthetic eye to add a mystical third eye effect. With some rather theatrical intensity, he sang about space, apocalypse, and fame. Photographer Mick Rock later described Ziggy's look as hybrid of glam, kabuki, and 70s fashion studio vibe. A sheet of plastic and spike and metal, very modern art. And he wasn't kidding. Bowie himself later said Ziggy's entire style drew on everything from Japanese theater to German expressionist movies, and poets like Baudelaire. An entirely new kind of vocabulary for rock music. And into that mix he poured old Hollywood, glam, poetry, and punk menace, an alien rock star who just happened to glitter under the spotlight. Even our cultural critic, Camille Paglia, was hooked. Camille remembers Ziggy's final show in 1973 as a revelation. Bowie looked like a bold, charismatic being, neither male nor female, in fishnets and mannequin hand bras. A demigod who gave her a new rock sexuality. In fact, it was Bowie's storytelling genius that flipped a concert into an event. He had rehearsed Ziggy with Mick Ronson and the Spiders band, even invented stage moves and dialogue. At the absolute height of Ziggy's fame, he did the unthinkable. On live television, he announced, "Ziggy Stardust has to die tonight." He effectively shed his Ziggy skin in front of fans.
Why did you kill Ziggy? It was hard for all of us. It was hard for the country, damn it.
Bowie explained later that he had to kill Ziggy at his peak to keep evolving and not be trapped by it. In his world, nothing stayed still. This headliner moment was pure Bowie, shocking, enigmatic, and fully game-changing. It wasn't just performance art, it was a worldwide permission. He made it safe to be yourself, weirdness and all, and showed that outlandish beauty could carry big messages. Many were inspired. Suddenly makeup and costuming weren't just for women or soldiers. Bowie proved any guy in anything could look damned cool. As Glamour magazine puts it, he left us a kind of encyclopedia of visual milestones and a psychic visual library of inspiration. Every time you see someone with a particularly dramatic eye, sequined jacket, or hysterical hair, there's a bit of Ziggy or Aladdin Sane whispering, "I did that first." Out of Bowie's spark, we got generations of artists. From Madonna, Kate Bush, and Lady Gaga, Daphne Guinness, Tilda Swinton, Alexander McQueen, to now someone like Harry Styles, who would very similarly use makeup and fashion as creative tools. In short, he treated his face like a storyboard, and everyone was eager to get to reading. Bowie's reinvention train didn't stop at Ziggy, of course.
I've reinvented my image so many times that I'm in denial that I was originally an overweight Korean woman.
Barely a year later, he debuted Aladdin Sane, which looked at Ziggy and added a twist, literally. He described Aladdin Sane as Ziggy coming to America with his mind in a plastic case, a wackier twin. On the album cover we all know and love, he wore a scarlet lightning bolt painted across his face, an image so iconic it became shorthand for Bowie ever after. Next came Diamond Dogs, a rougher dystopian punk turn. Picture Bowie snarling on stage in shredded leather and furry collars, half man, half dog, his makeup smeared, dark glamour. It was cabaret punk theater. He even joked the album's half dog, half Bowie cover was like Pinocchio being carjacked. By then he married flamboyance with some rough grit. And so in 1975 he slipped into smooth grooves. On Young Americans he swapped alien makeup for cool Soul Train style, neat hair, glittering collars, and dancing in sharp suits. This was when a skinny Bowie in a white shirt and tan jacket crooned Fame, co-written with John Lennon and Young Americans on Soul Train, and even adopted a rather playful American accent. Fans were equal parts confused and thrilled, their alien god pulling a James Brown routine and all. It proved his punky soul vibe could conquer another genre, rock or soul. By 1976's Station to Station, Bowie had morphed again, now into the thin white duke, slicked back blonde hair, pale white makeup, plus a velvet tuxedo. That's when the fascism allegations poured in. He was eerily vacant-eyed from all the cocaine, a protagonist that was half aristocrat, half myth. Even in that cool tuxedo of his, he had a theatrical edge. Audiences still whispered that he might still break into a Bowie meets Sweeney Todd scene any minute. Through all this, he remained an unquenchable workaholic. He filmed the man who fell to Earth as an actual alien, continuing the overall theme. Photographers and directors lined up.
One of the people I presume you would have liked to have worked with would have been Piero Pasolini.
Would I?
Yes.
For Ashes to Ashes, he'd later paint his cheeks for a Piero clown look, in his loving memory of silent films. Side note, Bowie didn't just act as the art object, he made art, too. Not a lot of people know about this.
He's done all right as a rock star, but how good is David Bowie with a paintbrush? His first exhibition opened in London today.
Before all the alien eyeliner, he trained in art and design, and he kept painting on and off for decades, usually in private, like a pressure valve between albums. The work leans more expressionist than polished. Thick color, fast marks, faces that look slightly overheard rather than posed. It's the most Bowie sideline imaginable, another identity running in parallel, except this time the applause wasn't the point.
From Iggy Pop to Afro-Pagan, David Bowie's work is nothing if not versatile. He's been painting and sculpting since the mid-70s. It is, he says, as important to his life as music.
Judas Priest's Rob Halford later called him the master of disguise. Nobody else on earth ever spun so many different images in their career. It's hard to overstate just how seismic these transformations of Bowie's were. Every new look felt like a cultural event. Fans mimicked it, tabloids fawned over it, and little stores suddenly stocked the newly relevant ingredients. Glamour magazine summed it up. Bowie treated his bodily shell as a canvas for self-expression at its most extreme, and each reinvention sent ripples through music and fashion. He made it safe to be weird. Outsiders and misfits everywhere saw him change and thought, if Bowie can do that, then maybe I can try something else too. In a way, he became a stylistic big brother we all wished we had. He fought beauty norms from the start. At 17, he infamously refused to cut his long hair for a TV show, launching a mock political group and creating headlines just so. His was an image war, waged one hairstyle at a time, and he always won. Just think, he told an interviewer, if you're afraid of looking the wrong way, do it wrong on purpose. He meant that seriously. For him, fashion and makeup weren't frivolous. They were tools of liberation. He kicked off the gender revolution before it had a name and unwittingly convinced the world that eyeliner on a man could be just as good as a red lip on a woman. Decades later, he remains a style teacher. Makeup artists and vloggers still cite Ziggy's lightning bolt or Aladdin's glam as inspiration. Models and celebs pay homage all the time. Picture Kate Moss in red hair. And then there was Daphne Guinness. Well, I couldn't possibly even begin to list all the fashion tributes. I'm sure you see them all the time, too. His reign shaped entire fashion eras. When the new romantics of the 80s came along, they were really just carrying on Bowie's blueprint. As a longtime Bowie fan and beauty devotee, I can tell you, incorporating even a hint of his style is unavoidably thrilling. Just the other day I was editing this video, blasting Black Star on repeat, and on a whim I drew a tiny black star at my eye corner with eyeliner. It was silly, but then I remembered, Bowie taught us to make play out of beauty. That one star turned the rest of the day into play. Maybe that's the biggest lesson. You don't need a full costume, just a spark of creativity gets the fire going. If you're like me, looking at your reflection with a sigh at times, consider this a permission slip. Go ahead and do something new, however small. You might like it. After all, if Bowie could parade down a Broadway street in a painted sequined jumpsuit, you can at least wear that blue eyeshadow to a coffee shop. I remember the first time I tried a full glitter look. I was headed to a night shoot and thought, what would Bowie do? I swirled silver all over my eyelids and temples and wore a shimmery gloss too. I got a few double takes, and it changed everything. Looking in the mirror, I felt a slice of that Bowie bravado, like I could command attention just like he did on stages. It's a tiny thing, really, but one night with glitter on felt like riding the spiders from Mars myself. Bowie's point is, once you give yourself permission to try something fun, you can't unsee the difference. So go on, and wink at the mirror while at it. Maybe you'll feel a little like a rock star too. Oh, and by the way, never be afraid to reinvent your hair. Bowie treated his like an ever-changing accessory to fit the persona of the moment. He went from the long curly locks of his early days to the signature Ziggy Stardust cut, that red mullet crafted by his hairdresser Susie Fussy, inspired by Japanese kabuki theater and high-fashion editorials. That was shocking in its day, and it was instantly copied by would-be rockers of all genders who wanted to join the cool new revolution. The takeaway? A haircut or color can be transformative. Whether it's a dramatic chop or an adventurous, incorrect dye job you've been considering, don't be afraid to try a look that truly expresses you. Hair grows back, life is short. One last thought. Bowie's blueprint was never about following rules, but about writing your own through experimentation. Don't feel limited by what society says you should wear. Every persona he wore was nothing more than a chapter in an ongoing story of self-expression and self-development. And as our journey through Bowie's 1970s comes to a close, it's clear that his legacy is about so much more than hit records or flamboyant clothes. It's about freedom. Bowie's life was a masterclass in the invention of self. If there's a secret we're left with, it's that beauty comes from daring to constantly change. If you feel stuck in a style rut, remember Bowie's example. He never bothered staying in one place. Try something extra tomorrow. You might feel silly, and that's exactly when it becomes liberating. Do it scared. If you can't do it scared, do it ironically. After all, Bowie once said he wanted to be remembered as the most original, and that torch can be yours too. In his world, there's always room for one more rebel. Maybe that rebel is you now. Glitter or no glitter, loud or quiet, the point is to let your beauty blueprint shine through. Thanks for joining me on this cosmic style journey. If you enjoyed it, please hit like and subscribe so you won't miss the next deep dive. And a huge thanks to our Beauty Blueprint members. Your loving support makes these videos possible. And if you're not a member yet, consider joining Beauty Blueprint for members-only episodes and perks. Oh, and I made a limited edition David Bowie t-shirt for this video's launch. Link below if you want to rock it with me. Keep pushing those boundaries. Bowie showed us how. Now go create your own blueprint. Until next time, keep up that spark.
Did you have a good time?